Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to The Brink as we come to you today for episode 54 of our rebooted, reformatted podcast, which I keep saying all the time, and it's really not that rebooted anymore, considering that we've been on air for over a year in this format. But whatever, we're back, episode 54, December the 4th, 2017, our first show for December, the final month of the year. How has this year gone by so quickly? But we've got another big show today. We've got regulars joining us. We've got more funny bits to play for you and everything else in between. And didn't get an opportunity to do this last week because we had a bit of a different introduction. But going over the statistics of where you've been listening to us around the big world of ours. And a big shout out, as always, to our Austrian, our United Kingdom, our Indian and our Cook Islands listeners. Lots of people from around the world as well. And as always, I give you the opportunity to shoot us a message, say good day, say hey, why are you listening to us? You know, we've got the consistent levels here of our Cook Islands and Austrian listeners, so I really hope that if you're coming across our podcast, you're enjoying it. But yeah, it's obviously a pleasure to have you listening to us from around the world, and we hope that you're at least enjoying the content that we are putting out there for you. Another time of the episode for us to go transcontinental. It's not really transcontinental because I guess it's technically part of our continent in some ways. I don't know, we've done this before, I'm just making shit up. It's Nick Chester from New Zealand. Nick, welcome back to the Brink.
Always a pleasure to be back.
Always a pleasure to have you. And we always want to hear about New Zealand, and I mean, I'm looking at some shit here, but I kind of feel that you might have some interesting stuff for us to talk about. What's happening in New Zealand this week?
Oh, I've been doing extensive research, which includes going on to stuff.co.nz about 30 seconds ago. As always, I'm doing my extensive research. But one of the headlines I just pulled up that I thought was a great one to get us started on was ex-Kiwi MP now a gay icon in Japan. That's not something you hear every day. So
wow.
So 71-year-old. Oh no, that's not. No, that's so Maurice Williamson, who is an ex-MP over here. So he made quite a famous speech during the gay marriage debate that we had here about 4 years ago. Some people might remember it, where he talked about the big gay rainbow over his electorate. But if you haven't seen it, go and look it up on YouTube. It's quite funny. But basically, that's been picked up by some Japanese politicians who are trying to get the gay marriage thing passed over there. So that's quite interesting. That's not something I would have expected, but Maurice Williamson's not too happy about it, apparently.
Oh, really?
He's now the New Zealand Consul General to the US. And what does he say? I don't know what's driving it, but I'm delighted. For the record, my oldest son, Simon, is half Japanese, so I'm proud of the association. That doesn't sound like he's bemused to me.
Yeah, that sounds like he's amused or something.
Yeah. So maybe some poor reporting going on there, which is a shock for stuff.co.nz. They always get it right.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting story. I don't know what you make of that.
Look, I mean, honestly, when I think about New Zealand, I often would assume that a former MP would no doubt be a gay icon in Japan. I mean, it's just what I think about at night. So, that's a headline that I don't often assume I read. Actually, one thing I've just noticed here, I did want to talk to you about this during the week, because I was going to send this to you, and then I've no, save it for the Brink. It made the rounds here, and I don't know if it maybe was popular in New Zealand or it's just one of these things that's been funny overseas, is the recruit video for New Zealand police. Was that, did you see that at all during the week, Nick?
Oh, I saw it on, I saw the buzz on Facebook, but I never actually saw it. Is this a time where I need to go and watch it? Do we need to kind of pause?
Oh, no, look, you can watch it after. I mean, it's just funny. It's kind of like, I know we've talked a little bit before about the Air New Zealand safety videos. I mean, you guys generally do these things very well. It's just funny, just with all these cops sort of running around the streets and kind of being all dangerous, but they're really helping a little old man cross the road, and then a guy running down, and I can't remember what he says, and this random woman just says something, and this cop's just kind of oh, you just ruined my flow. I was trying to tell this story. And she's like, oh, sorry, bro. And it's oh, it's all right. And then all these cops just start running again. And, it's just funny. It's just so clever. I mean, what is it about New Zealand and making clever, little films like this? You guys, I think Hollywood needs to move to New Zealand. I think there's kind of a trend going on here, isn't there?
It's probably the Peter Jackson influence over the years, I suppose, and Taika Waititi, obviously. We get some good filmmakers come out of here, I guess. So yeah, maybe that's behind it.
How is the whole Thor Ragnarok or whatever it's called? It's obviously a huge success. People are generally liking it. I think for the most part, people are liking Thor again, aren't they? I mean, I will admit, in my slow Marvel catch-up, I'm literally only just watched the second Thor about a week ago, so I'm not even close to watching the third one yet. So I'm going to watch all the other bloody Marvel films in between. But, is that, I guess, New Zealand? Are they into it as much as the world are as well?
Oh, I think because it's quite funny when you get to it, you'll realise there's a character in there who is actually voiced by Taika, and it's very, very Kiwi. And that was my only thing. Is like, will people get this? Because it's so Kiwi. But apparently people are loving it. So yeah, Taika Waititi's a funny guy, and he seems to make it work regardless. So yeah, no, I think people are really liking it.
Just reading here on your beloved stuff.co.nz. Jacinda Ardern responds to Ed Sheeran's request for New Zealand citizenship. What's the deal here? Do you know much about this, or?
A little bit. I'm sure Ed Sheeran says it everywhere he goes, but he goes on about how much he loves New Zealand, and he said that Wellington's his favourite city in the world. He's obviously been here on a rainy day because it's a shithole. It's a night. Like the saying about Wellington is it's it's the best place in the world on a great day. The problem is Wellington only has about 10 of them a year. And on a bad day, and I've been there in January when the rain's been coming in sideways, and yeah, it was not fun. So yeah. But anyway, basically, yeah. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said she needs to know Ed Sheeran's position on jandals before she's considered making him a New Zealand citizen. So apparently, he's actually made inquiries about becoming a New Zealand citizen.
And I'm actually reading here. She also says the first. Do you like pineapple lumps? Do you even know what they are? Look, I'll be absolutely honest with you. If he does say this about every other country in the world, he's never said it about Australia that I know of. Maybe he's been legit here, Nick. Which is
yeah. I don't know.
It's a weird. Look, I'm not saying it's a weird request. Don't be offensive to New Zealand, Ben. But yeah, I don't know. What's your viewpoint on Ed Sheeran? Do you give a shit or not really? It's a weird question.
Yeah, if he wants to be a New Zealand citizen, by all means, I'm not really fussed. I guess probably the thing, the hilarious part about this is that, Jacinda's trying to reduce the number of immigrants we've got coming in. So, that's kind of the funny thing, I guess. But yeah, whether or not you like pineapple lumps shouldn't be a big deal because I don't think they're that great. They're all right.
Look, one thing I think I'll leave it on here is when I think of New Zealand, look, I'll be honest with you, Nick, one thing I don't often think about the country are beaches. And look, I know you've got some. You and I went to a beach in New Zealand. I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but it's just generally you think of Australia, you think of beaches. You think of Iraq, you don't think of beaches. There are just some countries you don't think about beaches when you hear that name. But I love the fact there's a website, newshub.co.nz, has a headline. It's almost like it's a disappointing fact for your country. New Zealand fails to make world's best beaches list. It'd be like Australia fails to make the tallest mountains in the world list. I don't know. It seems so random. It's got, it's New Zealand has failed to make the cut. It loses out to 50 pristine international beaches, including 4 from Australia in Flight Network's best beaches list. We only got 4? That's bullshit, man. Do you think about beaches in your beloved country?
Yeah, definitely. We've got some pretty amazing beaches. But the fact that the rest of the world doesn't know about them is kind of what we like about it. Is that you can go to the beach even in the middle of summer, and quite often there's only 3 people and their dog at the beach, and that's what people love about New Zealand is that you look at these photos in Europe and the beaches are completely packed, and New Zealand's not like that. You can kind of go to these pristine beaches and nobody's there.
Yeah, to me
that's part of the appeal about them.
To me, it's kind of like Tasmania on the grand scheme of things. Australia think of beaches, but Tasmania, we've got some great beaches, exactly like what you said. But people don't think of Tasmania as having beaches because we're kind of the cold state. So for those playing at home who care, apparently this website wants to auto-refresh and take me to a different website. Apparently now I'm not allowed to read about the top 10 beaches. I have to read about same-sex marriage will give rise to polygamy by Pauline Hanson. Thanks, News Hub.
Well, we're going back to beaches. I'd say if you've seen the Macklemore video clip, what's that song called?
Thrift Shop.
No, the other one where he starts on the pirate ship and stuff. Anyway, there's a bit there where he's on the beach. And anyway, that's Cathedral Cove in New Zealand, which is one of our most famous beach spots. And it's pretty beautiful. Like, it's an amazing place to go.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some amazing beaches. We actually had one a couple of years ago that I don't know, I can't remember the exact story, but they were going to sell it off so it would become like a private beach. And basically, some group started it as like a crowdsourcing thing, and so basically like 1 million people put in a couple of bucks each, and they bought the beach, and so now it's in public ownership.
Wow!
Because everybody in New Zealand didn't want it to become a private beach.
Oh wow! That's awesome. I've got the article about those playing at home who want to know what the top 10 beaches are. So, number 10, Trunk Bay, St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Sure. Hidden Beach. Clearly not, if it's made the top 10 beaches in the world. The Islas Mariatos, Mexico Blue. I'm guessing that's maybe just Mexico Blue's an airline, isn't it? I don't know. Number 8 is Hyams Beach in Australia. I think that's Hyams Beach in Australia. Playa Paraíso, River May, Mexico. Number 6 is Baía des Porcos somewhere in Brazil. Navaggio Beach in Greece is number 5. Pink Sands Beach in Harbour Island, the Bahamas, number 4. Number 3 is Ansollatio Praslin in Seychelles. Number 2, Whitehaven Beach and the Whitsundays in Australia. And number 1, Grace Bay in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I've only heard of one of those beaches. That is Whitehaven Beach.
So none of the ones from Survivor made it. Like, these amazing beaches in the South Pacific. Like, I think they might have. Yeah, I'm calling foul on this because it seems to me like none of the Pacific beaches are there, and that would be just a no-brainer to at least have one of them in there.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It says it's got here that this isn't in the top 10, but it's got in the rest of this article. Murray Beach and One Foot Island in the Cook Islands are on the list, and so is Fiji's Blue Lagoon.
Okay, I'll take it back.
That's in the top 50. This list was created based on opinions of over 600 travel journalists, editors, bloggers, and agencies from the world. So there you go. All right. Anything else going on? Just quickly, I guess that whole Tonga-England final's cool. All the Tongan flags. I thought we said that game was going to be empty in Auckland, but bloody hell, that was full.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think, as you and I kind of talked off air a little bit, that obviously, New Zealand's a place where a lot of people from the Pacific Islands, they move here. So I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it'd be pretty close to that. There's probably more Tongans living in New Zealand than there are in Tonga. So we probably shouldn't have been too surprised by that. It's it's to be expected, I guess. But yeah, no, awesome turnout, and it's a shame they didn't win because it would have been awesome to see them in the final. But yeah, pretty great event for our Tongan community, that's for sure.
Indeed, and by the time we release this, the final would have been done. But yeah, Australia's got to shit this in, right? I don't really give a shit, to be honest, but people in our northern states do.
You would expect so. The only time that Australia ever get beaten in the league is the one time in 10 years that New Zealand kind of get their shit together and actually win a game, and it just happens to have been on the final of a couple of these big events. So we've got a way better record in these big games than we should, and we're not there. So I can't imagine that Australia are going to lose to England.
Well, we beat them in the cricket this week. We're one up in the Ashes, so hopefully we can do the same in the rugby. Nick, always a pleasure, and we look forward to speaking to you next time.
Rightio.
Let's wind up the music and press this.
This is like a flashback. This is like a dream.
Flashback. Yes, we're going back again to 2010, as we have been recently kind of going over the best of that year. And 2010, of course, was the year that Australia got a female Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, of course, who would obviously come on to be a guest on our show 2011 as an actual guest. But at the time, we sort of had to pretend she was a guest. And this, I think, kind of came down to myself and then co-host Matt. And yeah, just a little bit here that you might enjoy.
Well, look, joining us in the studio, she's flown out a very long way, and it's a massive honour because didn't think this was going to happen so soon. She's the 28th, 27th, 26th Prime Minister of Australia, 28th Prime Minister of Australia, and the first ever female Prime Minister of this country, and probably the first And the phone's ringing too, Julia. I think you should probably turn that off. Julia Gillard, Prime Minister of Australia, welcome. As the vuvuzelas and everything go off here as well. Julia, welcome to the Brink and Edge Radio. Oh, look, it is an absolute honour to be here in South Africa and on the Brink.
Julia, how are you this morning?
Oh, hello, Matt. How are you?
Very well indeed.
You're looking very fetching this morning.
Yes, thank you very much. You seem to have picked up a bit of South African accent.
Oh, look.
Way.
Oh, the flight has managed my voice box to just go a little bit low, and the altitude here in South Africa has... I'll listen to those vuvuzelas. They are incredible, are they not, Matthew?
Yeah, they're like little mosquitoes, aren't they, Julia?
Oh, no, look, it is, and it's an honour to be here and to see them in person, very much so. It's fantastic.
So, what was it like, Jules, walking into K. Rudd's office the other day and saying, Ruddy, Kev, mate, I want your job.
Oh,
How
no.
was it?
Well, look, it was a very daunting experience, and it has to be said, Kevin obviously speaks very fondly of this show and the boys and his time that he used to spend here, and that was probably part of the reason why I wished to take the top job, was to come on this show, because I felt a bit snobbed as not ever been asked onto this program in the past.
Right.
And no, look, it was not as hard as I thought it would be, actually. You know, I had some incriminating evidence against Kevin, which not a lot of people know about.
Right.
And
Such was?
oh, well, look, I can't exactly say here on air.
You can't give us a sneak peek.
Oh, no,
Don't tell
look,
us.
I'll show you off air. How would you like that?
Come on, for all our listeners out there, we have thousands of listeners. It'd be
No,
nice.
but look, there's probably more chance of me playing as full forward for the Bulldogs than there would be of me admitting that on air.
Really?
Yes, well, just on that, actually,
Yes.
obviously keen football fan I am, the Socceroos have actually asked me to play for them in the upcoming Asian Cup.
Have they?
And I am grateful to actually accept their offer.
Well, they haven't got any soccer players at the moment, so you wouldn't be harming their chances.
Probably not, no. But no, look, I do find it's quite nice here in your studio here in Johannesburg.
Yeah, it's really good. Really fantastic over here. It's better than the one back in Hobart.
I've heard that it's not the best out there, but I would be happy to come visit you in the lead up to the election.
Absolutely.
Would you like me to-
Love to have you on there, Jules. So, just a quick question. Jules, a lot of Facebook pages out there about you. at the
Oh,
moment.
yes.
What are your thoughts on some of them?
Oh, they're a bit funny, aren't they?
Yeah.
All those kitchen jokes and, you know, redhead jokes and, look, you know, I find them quite humorous.
And just between you and me, I won't tell anybody. But,
Oh, of course not.
How many of those do you reckon Cruddies put up?
Oh, Ruddy's a bit of a joker, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no, look, Ruddy's he's a funny fellow, you know, well, in his own mind, possibly. But no, look, I think that the humour involved in Kevin Rudd's jokes are possibly not that up there to create those Facebook those groups. Well, look, possibly he might have started a few ones about him, but the ones about me, it has to be said that Swanee, Swanee's a little joker. And when he gets on that computer, he doesn't know what he's doing. Just you trust me with that one, Mr. Stevenson. You trust me.
And you're just a little bit disappointed. I know this show is fantastic. You're wonderful to be on here, but you're a little bit disappointed that Rove is no longer on air and you will not be in the cartoon with Swanee.
Oh, look, well, as much as I would have loved to have a Julia Gillard PM segment on Rovi, I do believe that this program that I'm on at the moment is quite the capable replacement for Rovi, and I definitely believe that I can have a weekly segment on this show if you would allow me the time to appear on this show, because between yourself and Ben, who has been very quiet over there in the corner, and also to the other one who isn't here at the moment. What's that young gentleman's
forget his
name?
name.
No, well, look, he's obviously not that important.
Yeah.
But look, I would be honoured to come on this show if you would allow me the pleasure.
We love ringers on here, so absolutely, Julia.
Now, and I would like to also say that, Matt, that in the future the terminology of ranger will be outlawed in this country. I do believe it to be derogatory to myself.
Really?
But no, look, I actually came on this show. I don't have a lot of time, but I did want to announce the election date
Right.
Because I think it's very important for the Australian people
Looking forward, yes.
Do you want to know?
Yes.
The election is actually tonight.
Right.
So I'm hoping that Tony Abbott is not listening. He's probably not. He's probably out budgie smuggling somewhere. You're a fan of... You're one of those liberal folk, aren't you, Matthew?
Absolutely. The budgie smugglers are great.
So everybody listening in Australia, the election will be held in approximately 10 hours' time. So you must go vote now. If not, if nobody votes, you all go to jail, and the polls stay the way they are at the moment. So good luck with that, Australia.
Yeah, I mean, impersonations really don't sound anything like her, but when did any of ours ever sound like the people that we were trying to impersonate? It's been a little bit since we've had our next guest on the show. He's the man who comes on and talks about Donald Trump and other things, and we've got him back. It's Paul Luttrell. Paul, welcome back to The Brink.
Yeah, good to be here. It's been a while, but
It has. You've been a busy boy. You've been out there doing more important stuff than podcasts, which is a good thing. I wish I could do that, but I just live in front of my microphone. That's my life. So, how is the real world? What's going on out there?
It's interesting, the real world. I guess it's good being in schools. It's good to see that kids have the same kind of reaction to Donald Trump that we do. They're fairly disgusted by him and think that he's a bit of a joke. Even one girl did a graphic novel based on Trump, and the theme was Donald Trump goes out on toupee shopping.
Oh, that sounds
a good piece of satire, that one.
Pretty fun. How were the illustrations? Does she have a future in graphic novel design?
Well, the illustrations weren't amazing, but I think the underlying story was pretty funny, and yeah, I mean the illustrations helped convey the message, I guess.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. We'll get her on when she's famous, perhaps. But what's happened to Trump in the last month or so? I mean, a lot. But I don't know. There's tax. There's tweets. There's defending people that probably shouldn't be defended. I mean, the guy just doesn't stop delivering, does he?
No, he doesn't. I think as well. I think we need to mention the ongoing investigation of his administration as well, and they seem to be just bearing down on everyone now. Even Jared Kushner's a bit under the gun. We've seen Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort and a few other people. Was it Mueller, the guy that's under, or Mueller, however the Americans say it? The FBI guy is bearing down, which is great news, and hopefully Trump is squirming about that.
Well, happy 1 year anniversary of him getting elected. Since we spoke, that went by quickly. But what's like you mentioned a little bit about this this Twitter thing with Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the UK, that he was retweeting a few kind of anti-Islam sort of tweets, and she piped in with an opinion, and then he replied to some poor woman who only had 6 followers and thought it was the Prime Minister of England. I mean, the UK, I should say, pretty standard really when it comes to a world leader, I would guess. Yeah,
he uses Twitter so much. You think that he'd actually know how to use it properly. But yeah, it's strange. The fact that you can have these kind of diplomatic interactions over Twitter now is very odd. It's out in the open. It seems a bit childish, but I mean, Theresa May, obviously, it's basically by resharing things that are, essentially these minority groups that are trying to incite hatred and things like that. By retweeting them, it doesn't reflect very well on the UK. It's kind of an attack on the UK in a way. So I think she has every right to kind of pipe up and say this shouldn't be done. Trump obviously, whenever he's called out on anything, he writes back like a child.
It's so interesting to follow his Twitter just because, he kind of has, it's two sides to him. He's either doing his childish sort of, sad fake news sort of tweets and all that sort of stuff, but then it feels weird when he actually does, like, today it was an honour to welcome this person to the White House. We look forward to working and continuing our strong relationship together. Like I'm seeing one here, or at least time recording this, 8 hours ago. Today it was my great honour to meet with the Crown Prince of Bahrain at the White House. Bahrain and the United States are important partners. I don't know, it just seems weird that Donald Trump to be tweeting stuff like that, when you also then have a look one here when a day or so ago, funny to hear the Democrats talking about the national debt when President Obama doubled it in only 8 years, exclamation mark. Like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes he does have normal people tweeting for him, and then it's just back to him.
Yeah. I think that there's kind of like someone who's trying to be on message and actually promote the news, and then he gets in there with his little gossipy jibes and whatever. But yeah, it's ridiculous that he goes on about Obama increasing the debt when his new tax laws that he's trying to pass in Congress are actually, I think 37 out of 38 economists that they surveyed said that it would increase the debt by a ridiculous amount.
Right. So what is the point then of him doing this? I mean, how can he spin this? I don't understand that.
It's essentially just we're trying to give money to our rich friends.
Right.
And trying to spin it in a way that, it's a tax cut, but it's not a tax cut for everyone. It's a tax cut for the wealthiest 1%.
Right. So is he just setting himself up for a good life once he gets kicked out of the White House? Is that essentially what he's trying to do?
Oh, I don't know. Surely he hasn't got many years to live. I don't understand what he's... That's one positive we can take from this.
Is it weird, though, that you never kind of... I don't know if it's just me or not, but I don't picture Donald Trump as like a 70-year-old. Like, to me, I don't know. I don't want to give him a compliment, but he doesn't seem like a 70-year-old.
I think it's because that's the uniform. It's the Trump uniform, essentially. He has the orange fake tan, the hair... weird hair, and those big suits, and you could put anyone in there and they would look like Donald Trump. You could put a 95-year-old Jewish woman in that suit and that would still look like Donald Trump.
I'd like to see that.
It's kind of like the Beatles effect, when everyone in the Beatles all wore their kind of suits and everything. You couldn't really distinguish that much between their looks, and I think that John Lennon used to say he put on heaps of weight at one stage, but you couldn't really tell because the image of the Beatles kind of overpowered that, and you kind of just saw the Beatles. That's
crazy. Yeah, it's interesting to put it that way, but yeah, and how's it been a year? For God's sakes, everyone complained that it was like this election campaign will never end. It's so long, and here we are, more than 12 months since the day that he was elected, and it's just, I don't know, it just feels so weird to think that. But I mean, I guess on the positive side of things, that means that we're, approaching the halfway mark. I mean, in less than a year, we'll be halfway through this, won't we? Yeah,
well, we've kind of just been spinning in circles, haven't we? He hasn't really done anything, which is, in a way, it's a good thing because he hasn't been able to do anything ridiculous, but it seems like we're always teetering on the brink of kind of like a disaster. And it's I don't know, anxiety-inducing a little bit.
Which, I mean, as we've said plenty of times by talking about this over, this year, is the fact that, sure, we wake up and it's a great news that he's gone, but I mean, again, it's, Pence is in there. And I mean, that's kind of not better. I mean, it's not worse, I guess. Well, is it? I don't know.
I feel like, if he's in there, we're probably not going to go into a war with North Korea.
At least it would just be internal problems, certain minorities might need to worry a little bit more about their rights as opposed to, starting a nuclear war with Korea.
I feel like he doesn't kind of activate that kind of primitive kind of...
he's one of these people who has outdated viewpoints but doesn't necessarily point them out when he's in control, I guess.
Yeah, whereas Trump kind of, I think that he's so unhinged that so many people identify with that and feel like it gives them a bit of a license to just be, the worst people they can be.
Yes. Someone like, I guess, Tony Abbott, who has opinions and maybe wasn't necessarily as bad as some thought he might have been when he was in control, but now that he's not Prime Minister, he goes back to those viewpoints, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally see that. I think that when he was, he might have had people, he was consulting with other people, and they were maybe kind of like filing down his rough edges. Whereas now he's out of the office, and now he's free to, spout whatever he wants.
Back to being Tony. Which, I mean, obviously, outside of Trump, outside of America, I mean, great news for us since we spoke. I mean, not necessarily for you and I, Paul, but I mean, it is great for you and I should we ever decide to head down the altar. But obviously, same-sex marriage, yes, vote yes, it happened. I mean, they're hoping to push this down by Christmas. It passed the Senate this week. So I think it just has to, pass the lower house, and then it could be up and available on next Friday. At the time of recording this, which time of releasing this will be this Friday. So, obviously, that's a bit of good news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's excellent. I at first I was kind of disappointed that the number is like 61 to 38.9 or whatever it was. I thought, it would have been nice to get a 2/3 majority. But then looking at the different electorates and seeing that I was at 133 to 17 or something like that. That was much better, because then it shows that it's kind of, the country right over. It's not just the centres, the population centres that are voted for it. It's actually right across Australia. There's this vast majority of people want it to be legalised, and it was great. I was at I was on placement at Farn, and everyone was celebrating and happy about it. All the kids loved it. But then I realised, wait, 61%. We're talking about this, how great it is. There's probably a couple of staff members that voted no, and we're kind of all just like, yeah, and kind of rubbing it in their face a little bit, but that's okay.
You got a couple of people in that room who are awkwardly clapping. Yay, this is girls celebrating. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting stat I saw was us in good old Denison. That was in the top 10 highest percentage in the country, I believe.
That's right.
I think it was like 4th or 5th, the most highest percentage of yes votes in the land. So that's
even
Hobart.
Tassie was above average, so that was good.
Yeah, which was, I think, was it New South Wales was the lowest turnout or something like that?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I guess it's kind of outside of Sydney, but Sydney's one of the, I guess, the most gay-friendly cities in the whole world. So it was kind of like, that was a bit of a strange thing. But I guess, New South Wales is more than Sydney.
Western Sydney or rural Sydney, I think there's obviously a big migrant population who obviously have different kind of religious beliefs and different upbringings and backgrounds. But yeah, you'd think, obviously, you're a minority. You'd hope that other people identify with the fact that people have been discriminated against and have some kind of empathy towards it. But obviously, if you have a certain belief system, then you're going to vote no.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the one, I mean, obviously it's fantastic, it's great. For myself, it just means now that I've got even less chance of getting married, which is great. I don't care. Well, maybe even more chance if I decide to, just give up on girls and kind of, you've got more options available. That's a good point. I mean, outside of this, Paul, yourself, I mean, how's everything else going? Band looks like it's going well. The running's going well. Life pretty good for Paul at the moment.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to kind of getting out there and getting a job and, being an adult.
What's that like? I've heard it's good.
Oh, I don't know. I'll get back to you with that. And it's for the last month or last 5 weeks, I've been, a kind of part-time adult there. Or a full-time adult, but kind of on vacation as an adult. It feels good. I can see how you kind of time runs away with you, and you don't get much else done because you're kind of just stuck in that. But it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, did you do the Point to Pinnacle, or was that only Caitlin, or did you both do that?
I did the shorter event, the Point to Pub.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So she went all the way to the top, did she?
Yeah, she did, and then she vomited on the bus ride back down.
No. Was that because she was so good and fast, or that? I mean, what happened there?
She doesn't eat a lot of like rubbishy food, and she'd been drinking on the way heaps of Powerade and water and stuff like that. And then she got to the top. She wasn't feeling great, and then she said she had a maniac bus driver take her back down, and she just vomited twice.
Wow. Well, I'm sure it's not very funny, Ben. It's not very nice that she vomited, but well, I mean, that's good. I mean, I've started a bit of an exercise regime myself, Paul. I mean, it's not running up a mountain or to a pub, but I've got to start slowly, right, and work my way to the top, I guess, sort of.
That's the way to do it. I think most people kind of they shoot themselves in the foot because they go out and they try and do too hard too soon, and they associate exercise with pain because of that. I think if you just go out and you take it easy, and then you gradually kind of, you'll get better anyway, and you could just kind of relax when you're out there.
Well, I've noticed it. Like, I mean, kind of, I do this lap around where I live, and kind of there's hills involved and everything, and, I used to do it all the time, but when I started 2 weeks ago, I'd never been so, like, tired, and I was like, holy fuck, I am so unfit. Like, I used to be able to breeze in this, and I am struggling. But, like, today, I breezed through it. I was up the hill, I was fine, or whatever, so, like, I'm gradually working up to doing 2 laps. So I'll do that next week, and then kind of do that for a month, and then hopefully the 3 laps and 4 laps, and I don't know, just like gradually building my way up through it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And you kind of, it's good if you get over that kind of 2-week hump, because no matter what, the first week and a bit, you'll just feel terrible anyway. But once you get past that, and you start to get those adaptations, it feels much better.
Well, yesterday I did it in 35-degree heat, and today I did it in pouring rain. So
today it felt great. I went out for a run today, and it felt excellent having just the temperature dropped. It's nice.
Yeah, I'm liking it. I see why people like running. Well, I'm walking at the moment, not running yet, but it's a fast walk. It's not a slow walk.
Yeah. As long as you enjoy it, that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, no, I'm surprising myself with it, actually. I'm liking it, so hopefully I can keep up with it. But, Paul, hopefully get you on again next week. Hopefully the world will still be here if Trump. We said that every week this year, I feel, but it's still here, so, I mean, it's good. But, yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been good to catch up, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, no problems. We do.
Now, we've been doing a bit of a regular segment where we kind of bring you some highlights of the week during what we've done in terms of the Oz Network. We've been doing our Star Wars month, of course, and this week is our final sort of episode in regards to the films that we've been covering the lead up to The Last Jedi coming out next week. We covered the animated film from 2008, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and got a little bit sidetracked in regards to some potentially offensive words used in the Star Wars galaxy. And just please note, we kind of had to record this differently, and kind of post-production we realised that we had a very annoying sound effect coming in through the speakers that you'll hear constantly in the background when Colin speaks. So here's this snippet. That's a bit racist. Like, I mean, I don't...
Wow. Yeah.
About skin colour.
Yeah, there's a lot of other, races you cannot say that line of words.
That's against green skin. You just got to. That's disgusting, Anakin.
He might as well have called them the G word.
Grigger.
Oh no! You did not say that.
What? That wasn't bad.
A long time ago in a racist galaxy far away.
Don't say the G word in Star Wars.
Trial.
We've now given the G word an official name. Come on, people. We're saying it in historical context here.
Yes.
Okay?
Come on. We can't change all of history, right?
Trial.
When they say it to each other, they just change the ER to an A.
Trial.
That word's going to be running through my head all night.
Yeah. Funny, and I apologise if that G word offended anyone. Been a couple of weeks since we've had this gentleman on the show because stuff has been happening in Canada that has prevented us from talking to him, apparently. It's Colin Hilding. Colin, welcome back to The Brink.
Thank you for having me back. I think it's been 2 whole weeks, so there was something happening for 1 week there that is way too dramatic for us to talk about.
A fortnight. Are you familiar with the term fortnight?
Only for when you drop it, and then I usually Google it after you say it, and then I forget after I've Googled it.
It's one of these words that I just have always assumed that people know what it is, but then, in dealing with Americans mainly, they always like, a fortnight, what's that? So I don't know, Canada's kind of that middle ground that, you're similar to us because of the Commonwealth, but then you're similar to America because they're below you. I don't know. Anyway, so there was a big sporting match in Canada in the last 2 weeks. which is kind of like your Super Bowl, your AFL Grand Final, the Grey Cup. Tell us about this and what happened and who won, and there was snow.
There was lots of snow. I mean, CFL is basically the Canadian Football League, which is exactly like American football with like a few minor differences. Our field's longer. There's only 3 downs. Like, people are familiar with American football, you get 4 downs, which is basically 4 chances to get a certain distance. In Canadian football, it's only 3, so the game moves back and forth a lot quicker. But it's kind of unusual that there's a sport which should normally just be a minor league thing here, but it's actually quite big in Canada. I know if we go to a low-attended game here for our team, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it'll probably still have, like, 10,000 people, which, if the Jets put to 10,000 people in there for hockey, that's a big deal. But yeah, the Grey Cup is, I guess, the big final game of the year, and it's crazy they always have it in the end of November, which is when it starts getting really cold in Canada. And sometimes you get it like happened here, where there was a massive blizzard and whiteout as they're singing the national anthem and everything. And I'm looking on the field, and I see as soon as the national anthem is over, they have people out there with shovels shoveling out the lines on the field, so the players would know where they are, and so the referees would know, he got like 10 yards or whatever. He got 8 yards. And they actually had at one point, I swear to God, a Zamboni on the field. It had like a plow in front of it, but it just basically looked like a Zamboni plowing the entire field to get the snow off. So it was kind of like crazy weather scenario, but it was fun because the game came down to Toronto and Calgary. And
my 2 favorite cities in your beautiful country.
Yeah, and I'll say it's especially interesting because Calgary was in the Grey Cup last year, and they were by far the best team going into it. I think they'd only lost like 2 games all season, and they were up against a team that actually had a losing record, so they lost more games than they'd won the entire season, and somehow Calgary blew it in the final minutes and lost to Ottawa last year. Miraculously, the exact same thing happened this year. Calgary had the lead, and with minutes to go, they lost it to Toronto. And with seconds to go, they basically had it tied. And with seconds to go, they lost it again. So Calgary is the 2-time choker here as the number 1 team, and Toronto was number 1, which is fun for me because I'm a big Toronto fan for pretty much anything sports.
Wow. So is this like kind of like the Super Bowl or like AFL Grand Final here? It's a big deal. Like, you'll have barbecues. I guess you wouldn't have barbecues because it's snowing. So I don't know, like fucking casserole offs or something like that. And
that's what Canadians eat during the winter. We barbecue in the winter. That's the thing people don't know about us.
But I mean, like, is it a big deal? Like, everybody like has viewing parties and stuff like that, or is it you're just Canadians, you're too nice, you don't drink alcohol or something? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is a big deal. You have your Grey Cup parties like you will your Super Bowl parties. I think probably the only difference, and I always thought the TV ratings were smaller, because we don't have the big elaborate commercials that you get with like Super Bowl commercials. But also it used to be carried on network television, and now it's moved to like the cable sports, like our version of ESPN, TSN. And I thought, well, maybe the ratings were bad for it. But even just looking over the ratings for the last couple of years, we'll get, 5 to 10 million Canadians watching this. And when you consider, in comparison to American ratings, we have about 1/10 the population of the United States. That's basically 50 to 100 million Americans if they were watching the Super Bowl.
Sounds like a quarter of your population, isn't it? Or even nearly a third.
I think we have about 30 million. So yeah, you can have anywhere from a 1/6 to a third of the country watching this in any given year. We didn't have a party because we're boring and we have a baby. But yeah, it's definitely a big deal. And the halftime show, we got Shania Twain this year, which there's a bit of a controversy on that. Because you always seem to pick up on everything Canadian. There's a controversy where some, journalist wrote that Shania Twain looked like a tramp during the halftime show. I mean, she was wearing a pink glitter skin-tight outfit, so maybe for like a 50-year-old woman, it offended this guy. But yeah, it's become like this big controversial thing. Like, this guy's been asking, as everybody else is, you're being asked to resign because he called Shania Twain a tramp during the halftime show.
Oh my god, that's just funny. Is it like the Super Bowl where they alternate between cities, or is it kind of like the highest team? Like, where was this played?
This year it was in, I think it was in Ottawa this year. I wasn't really paying attention to the city. No, I'm pretty sure it was Ottawa because it is the same thing where that you alternate different cities get it. You have to place the bid, even though we only have 9 teams in the CFL. It's basically 9 teams. That doesn't mean you're getting it once every 9 years. Winnipeg had it, I think, 2 years ago, and this year was Ottawa. So a different city will get it all the time, but it's different as well from the Super Bowl because even though you'll have NFL games when you get to December and January, where you'll have like Minnesota playing at home and they're in the snow. The Super Bowl is pretty much always seems to be held.
City.
Yeah, let's put it in Arizona or Florida or Texas. You can't really have anything. You don't have that privilege here in Canada. Your nice weather will be, we have it in Vancouver this year, but unfortunately it's snow mixed with rain because the temperature is right around freezing temperatures. So that's the nice Super Bowl or the nice Grey Cup that you might get
I
here.
remember they had a big deal about that a few years ago. Was it 2014 when they had it in New York at MetLife Stadium? Because they're like, it's a cold weather Super Bowl, like dramatic. And if they do have it in a city, it's got to have a roof. That's kind of like the thing, but MetLife Stadium. I watch MetLife Stadium. That doesn't have a roof. But I'm just looking at the teams here. Hamilton Tiger Cats, the Montreal Alouettes, the Ottawa Red Blacks. Red Blacks?
That's our third. Yeah, that's our third Ottawa team. So you'll notice the Saskatchewan Roughriders in there as well.
Yeah.
The team there was when I was growing up there was the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which was one word, and the Ottawa Roughriders as 2 words. So the Ottawa Roughriders eventually folded. They brought them back as the Ottawa Renegades for like a handful of seasons. Then they were gone for years, and then they brought back the Ottawa Red Blacks. So it's officially the third Ottawa team we've had.
The Red Blacks, so in Australia that would be the Red Backs, as in the spider. What's a Red Black?
I thought it was just 2 colors. I don't know what a red black is.
I can't. I mean, the football team I go over are the Blues, so I can't talk about that team being the colour. Toronto Argonauts, the BC Lions, the Calgary Stampeders, the Edmonton Eskimos, Saskatchewan Roughriders, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. What is it about Winnipeg and planes, Blue Bombers and Jets? Is there like lots of planes there, or?
I mean, we used to have all the military bases here in Winnipeg because we're kind of the center of the country.
Right.
And there used to like big air shows here. So yeah, it's the same. I guess I never even connected that until you said it because it's just so natural here. But yeah, Blue Bombers, Winnipeg Jets. I mean, we can't really. Of course, our baseball team are called the Gold Eyes, named after a fish. And you want to look up the worst logo in sports, look up the Winnipeg Gold Eyes logo.
And I thought the New Orleans Pelicans was bad. And I mean, we'll have to talk about this another time because, I mean, there has even been American teams in the CFL here that I'm looking at. Which is interesting. Before I let you go, one thing I wanted to quickly, I always have to Google him, Justin Trudeau, to see what's happening. Are you rushing out to buy the My Canadian Boyfriend Justin Trudeau calendar? Have you seen this?
No, and I don't want to see it.
There's an article here on one of our broadcasters here in Australia, SBS. The headline: My Canadian Boyfriend Justin Trudeau calendar divides public. It's sold in some retail stores in the US and online. Has excited and confused consumers. The Canadian Prime Minister and former teacher features in the cheeky calendar, selling for $25. As Mr. February making a love heart gesture and Mr. November with his beloved dog and flexing topless for Mr. July. Yeah.
You know what? Here's a funny unrelated story, and we'll probably talk about this next week because we also have in Winnipeg this week one of the big hockey shows on TV is broadcasting here, and they have this big festival. So I was there today for part of it, and then the other half will be tomorrow. But they had this guy there. He has this hockey circus, and it's kind of just this. And he was mentioning that he's in front of the crowd, and he's on his skates and everything, and he's doing his whole act, and he's saying, I'm afraid to admit this here, but I'm actually not Canadian. I'm originally born in America, but I've been doing this act in Canada for 20 years now, and there was this big list that came out that ranked the 21 most Canadian things you'll ever see. And he said, I was on that list at number 19. To put that in perspective, Justin Trudeau made number 21. And he's like, he's creeping me up on me, though, every time he takes his shirt off. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, That sounds like something Ben would say, or any other Australian.
Don't blame me. I'm bringing you the news. I don't give a shit if this guy gets his shirt on and off.
This is what's funny when you said people are divided on. I'm like, of course people are divided. Canadians don't care, and Australians are loving it.
Meanwhile, Malcolm Turnbull's never heard of in Canada. Shirtless pictures of Malcolm Turnbull. I don't think they exist, to be completely honest with you. It's probably a good thing. Always a pleasure. Enjoy your hockey shit. No, it's not shit. You know I enjoy it. I don't know why I said that. That was me. But thank you. I'm just going to end this. Thank you for joining us.
And look for Colin Hilding, My Canadian Husband calendar in stores for 2018.
Jamie definitely won't be buying that one. Alrighty, you know I get excited when I press this button.
It's that time of the week to play everybody's favorite game show. It's Forget the Lyrics! Here on the Brink on Edge Radio. Over to the studio.
Forget the lyrics. So good. 3 for you today, as we've kind of been bringing you in the last few weeks. We're going to go back to the year 2013. We're going to go back to the year 2010 and the year back of 2008. Let's start with 2013. Hearing Me get along to the classic that is Blondie and the classic that is Call Me. You've got to get into it. You've cited the Doorknob Association. Open up your doors now, baby. Turn that little knob. Is it new and from Bunnings, or is it old and old? Does it make you want to buy a book to see where it is from? Doorknobs on the door, baby, turning them and opening the door. Doorknobs are so cool and fresh, you can do lots of things with them all night. Doorknobs. Yeah, doorknobs! Who cares about those other twisty ones, the handly ones that go up and down? Vancouver might want to use them now, but you really don't have a cow. When they're old and with lots of history, you make sure you don't want to do things for free. Doorknobs! American Doorknobs Association, join now, you can talk about knobs. Doorknobs! You can learn how to get paint off your knob and even how to buff your knob. Doorknob. Did I lose it when I said you can learn how to buff your knob?
Yes.
Okay. We also obviously had a few kind of guest appearances over the years in regards to our Forget the Lyrics. Famously some politicians, Graham Sturgis, Scott Bacon joined us there. But of course we also had some musicians. Well, they are musicians. I was going to say sort of musicians, are musicians. Good friends of the shows, Tim Woods and Joel Stibbard, who were sort of touring musicians from the Melbourne area, and they kind of would join us every now and then. They were supporters of our Olympic bid, so they sort of would come in and perform and chat. And they decided to give Forget Lyrics a bit of a crack and do along to the Barry White classic, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Baby.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna talk to you about a serious topic. Oh yeah. Something you can check your eyes to. When you're not in Australia or Delhi. When you're in another country. Oh yeah. Let's pick a country tonight. Oh, there's an Adelaide. America. No.
Mexico.
No, Mexico. Mexico sounds like a beautiful place. My darling, I shaking those maracas in Mexico. Yeah. Come on, baby, you know how to work your wrist so far. Shaking my maraca in Mexico.
Mexico.
Maraca. Come on. Yeah, no matter how I try, I can get used to it. Come on, let me feel your wrists on your body now. Shake that. Shaking that ass.
I'm so totally lost.
Joel is lost now.
but I just do the shaker thing because it
Know
works.
what he's doing.
I think they bring some talent to that section. Speaking of talent, let's hear myself and Josh back in 2008 do Celebration, the Kool and the Gang classic, of course, also covered by Kylie Minogue famously. This was in celebration of our then 100th show.
Yeah! Woo! Pump it up, man.
Yeah.
What's up? 3 billion people. Clap in the background.
Come on.
That works.
It does.
Not yet, not yet. The cue's there. That's it, so you can see where. Oh, Yahoo! Bit delayed.
Yahoo.
Oh, goody, joy. Alright, shut up. I'm ready.
Yeah, man. Go for it, man. It's yours. Take it away.
Celebrate the brink. Come on. That works. Celebrate the brink. Come on. Here we go. There's a show going on right now. It's called The Brink's 100th Countdown. So bring your good ears and your awesomeness too. We're gonna celebrate and bring the show to you. Come on now.
Let's celebrate.
We're gonna celebrate and listen to us. Listen to us? We're gonna bring the show to you right now. It's time to bring the show together. It's up to you. Listen to our treasure every time you come on the show. It's dancing time.
It's awesome.
Break it down, Dance.
Oh, yeah. It's celebrating time here.
So
at
over to
the
you,
Brink.
my friend. I'm gonna dance in the background and do a little bit of break.
Yeah. Well, we've got a bit of a break when the music goes.
I'm gonna break dance, my
Break
friend.
dance, my friend.
Careful. Oh, come on, sing.
The Brink, come on.
Jeez,
it's
Josh.
the Brink's time to shine, Ben. Let's celebrate the Brink. Oh, yeah. There's a party going on right down here in the studio. A dedication to our 100th show. So bring your good times and your friends too. We're gonna celebrate and have the best time today.
Celebrate the Brink.
Let's all celebrate and have some wine. Yeah.
Celebrate the Brink.
We're gonna kill Ben if he isn't dead now. It's time to come in here, say howdy do, and any celebrity come and say hi and congratulate us. 100 shows, people.
Howdy do, apparently.
Howdy do. Celebration. Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Celebrate the Brink. Come on.
Celebrate the Brink. Yeah.
Yeah, the early days, if we get the lyrics, that wasn't too bad for an early one. I kind of don't usually like the earlier ones, but that wasn't too bad. Props to us for at least trying. It's time to now bring you a classic interview. I haven't done one of these in a few weeks, and one of our very first ones that we played for you in this segment a long time ago was our interview that we did with Rove McManus, television personality, one of Australia's most famous faces, I guess, when it comes to that sort of things. We played the chat that we had with him back in 2011. We were very lucky enough to, of course, interview him twice, and we interviewed him the following year in 2012. So given we played the 2011 interview between myself and Rove, why not play the 2012 interview between myself and Rove? Sit back, relax, and listen to this now. Rove, welcome back to the Brink.
Ben, I demanded it. I demanded it happen.
Well, I have...
It's been too long.
It has been way too long, and I'm glad to see that it was you demanding to come back on here than the other way around, because let's face it, we are in demand, Rove, so look, you obviously had to pull a few strings to get this slot, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely. And I believe, I believe if you're not on the brink, then you're taking up too much space.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly our motto, Rove. So you've been doing your research. But look, it's obviously been a very big year for you with Season 2 of Rove LA, moving to Warner Studios. You're broadcasting now in the States, as well as, of course, the big-name guests. How has it been so far this year, keeping busy as well as the big move out to Warner?
Well, certainly the move was a very big adjustment for us. But it's a great place. It's an exciting place, and there's a lot of history there. And if you're a cartoon buff like me, that WB Shield logo is a very iconic one, from all the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes cartoons to shows like the Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain that I absolutely love. Harry Potter. There's a Harry Potter museum at the actual studio. It's great. So yeah, there's a lot of history there, and it is a working film lot at the moment. The Hangover 3, are they up to 3?
They are,
is shooting there at the moment, and Argo was shot there, and there's a lot going on. So it's nice to be, and we've got, apart from that, there's Ellen and Conan on the lot as well. Shows like 2.5 Men. So it's just nice to kind of be doing our own small part of what is this big, huge machine.
Did you manage to do the tour when you were there at Warner, when you first went there?
Yeah, we got to drive around, and even on a daily basis, we have 2 little golf buggy things to drive around the lot. It is as Hollywood as you would wish it to be, and to get from where our office is, even our offices are part of a street that is used as a set. So it looks like something like Wisteria Lane out of Desperate Housewives. So our production office looks like a house until you get inside of it. But the outside is a house, and we have neighbours, and we've got little white picket fences. And on particular days, they'll be wanting to shoot something in the street, and they'll tell us you have to park your cars around the back today so no one can see them. And right next door is a big jungle lot where they shoot shows like True Blood and Pretty Little Liars, and so you even just to kind of dip out to get lunch from the little cafeteria there, you're driving through working studio lots, and sometimes there's big cameras and crews and everything going on. So yeah, it's a constant buzz, which is a great creative space to be in.
I can definitely imagine. Does it make it easier then to try and line up some of the big name guests? I mean, this year, looking at who you've had on, Russell Brand, Adam Lambert, Matthew Fox, and of course this week you've got Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta on. Is it easier getting to be so close to these people now? Come on the show, I want to chat to you.
Yeah, in some respects it is easier because they're in some cases they're working on the lot. We'll get people from shows like The Big Bang Theory, which is just next door to us, stuff like that. And other times it can be difficult because people are working. It's different when we were doing the show in Australia. If someone was in town, they were in town because they were on a press tour, and their time was not theirs to do what they wanted. So you could be a bit selfish by saying this is when we want you. Whereas now you might have someone booked for that night, and suddenly their work day blows out and they're shooting late, and suddenly you can't get them anymore. So there are pros and cons to it, but I would say on the whole it is far more positive than negative.
I'm sure a lot of people have been asking you the question then, Rove, are you ever going to get Ellen or Conan O'Brien on the show? Can you give us a scoop? Are you going to try and get them on the show one time if their schedules allow it?
Yeah, definitely. We've got the invite out to Ellen, and we've been back and forward through Twitter and things like that, and then certainly when we had this week John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John on, when they finished our show, they went literally next door to Ellen's show. So at first we put out the invite that if Ellen wants to come across to take John and Olivia out of our studio and whisk them over to hers, or I could drop them off, take them most over. But that hasn't happened as yet, and so at the moment, if the dangling the carrot of John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John can't do it, well, we're going to have to work a bit harder than that. So if they can't do it, I don't know what can, but I'm sure we'll think of it. I'd love to have her on. She'd be fantastic, and I know she's very very much wanting to give a shout out to her Aussie fans. We've got a few weeks left for the year, and hopefully we can make it happen.
Fingers crossed. But I mean, obviously with Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta, it's obviously kind of seen like a reunion for both of them since Grease. They've got the Christmas album out. What can the viewers expect from this interview, Rove? I know a lot of people are looking forward to it.
Well, you're right. It is a reunion of sorts. This is the first thing they've worked on together in 30 years. We just forget sometimes the two of them just seem so synonymous together that you forget that they made a not very good movie after Greek, and that's kind of been it. They haven't really done anything together on a project like this. So, you really do notice that as soon as they walked into the building, there is this real aura around the two of them. And, we cover all the stuff you'd want, of course, the early days, back when they were working on Grease and how all that came about and how they met and got together. And, we talk a little bit about, how they were... we go through some very bad outfits that they've both worn over the years and talk about the various solo projects that they've done, and then we also delve into some of the charity work that they're doing with the album and the reasons for that, with the loss of John's son and Olivia, with what she's been through with cancer. So there's a lot of fun, but there's a little bit of seriousness as well. And I think by the end of it, the one thing you'll come away from is that they're just two wonderful, down-to-earth people. Two huge stars, but just really, really lovely people. They are everything you would hope they would be.
That's what we like to hear. I remember back in the Rove Live days when you had John on with Hugh Jackman promoting Swordfish. Now that was a fun interview. So I'm sure if it's anything like that, we're going to be in for a treat.
Yeah, well, that was the show. I said this to John afterwards. That was the show that put us on the map. We were the little show that was still kind of finding its feet on Channel 10, and I don't know that anyone kind of really took us seriously as a big player on the television landscape. And getting Hugh and John, and we were, as far as I know, I think we were the only people who did. That was the show that put us on the map, and I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, it was because of him. So here we are again. As I pointed out to him at the time, it's 12 years later?
Yeah,
if you can believe that?
It's incredible.
So, or 11 years. So, so that's incredible, quite incredible.
How time flies while you're having fun. Well, one of the guests that I absolutely love seeing this year, Rove. Now, I host another radio show entirely on Survivor, so to see Jeff Probst on the show and to see you on the Jeff Probst show was incredible. How did that come about? Did Jeff approach you and say, "Hey, Rove, I am a fan," and did you believe it when he actually said it?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So his new show had started, and then we got the invite to go on, and which was lovely. And then when I turned up, I didn't realise this until I got there. And then he came and said hi before the show, and he said, "Oh, I'm a big fan." And I just sort of said, "Oh, well, that's very sweet of you to say." But I just thought he meant, as most of them do, I've been given a whole lot of clips to look at, and I really liked it. And I said, "Oh, that's nice." He said, No, seriously, I mean it. When I was shooting in Australia, I used to watch your show, and they have a lot of, even when they're shooting around the South Pacific, and, they do a lot of shows that are very close to Australia, and they have a lot of Australian crew, and he said, "I've seen your stuff before, and I'm a fan." And he was even saying it on the show to the point where even I was saying, "This is weird, this is making no sense." He's going, "It's so amazing that you're here." I'm going, "You're Jeff Probst, what are you talking about?" And so, but we really, really hit it off, and so I turned around and said, "But you've got to come on our show, I think you'd be great, and I know the Aussies would love to see you." And he was just so fantastic, I had to propose to him,
Yes.
And he is now officially my American bromance. And we went on our first mandate last weekend. We went to go see the new Quentin Tarantino movie, Django Unchained.
Brilliant.
And had a bite to eat afterwards, so we're well and truly on our way.
I was going to ask you how the bromance is going, Rove. We needed to get an update, I think, to see how things were moving along.
It's doing very well. Our wives are very pleased. So yeah, we've done a dinner together, and then we've gone out and seen a movie, and I'm hoping, it looks like I'll be going to the Survivor finale and reunion next week. So as a fan of the show, I'm very, very excited to do that.
Well, I was absolutely surprised, actually, to find out you were a fan, Rove, during that episode. Really? And I need to, I think, extend the invitation to you maybe one day when schedules allow it. I would love to get you on my Survivor show. It's called Survivor Oz, to sit down with you and chat about your fandom of the show, because I think a lot of Australians were interested about that, really.
Yeah. Well, we actually did get in trouble for, I showed a clip on the show which kind of gave away an elimination,
yes.
Which I hadn't thought of at the time. But I will also say, well, in the current climate, Channel 9/Go, you should be on the ball a bit more than that. So, there is such a thing as fast tracking. So, yeah, let's make it happen, people. Look, I've been a fan since the first season. I think there was only one that we didn't get. Gabon, I want to say. Is that the one?
It was Marquesas. Season 4, Marquesas.
Was it Marquesas? No, there was one with there was a big gorilla in the logo that we didn't get either. So maybe there was two. But anyway, I've otherwise seen any that went to air in Australia and watched them all here, which is great. I have my favourites, and it's one of those. It's one of the few shows on television. I always use it as an example of how TV can be done right. It still works. They can add things like immunity idols. They can add things like all-stars. They can add things like fan versus favourites. They can have, and then they can bring back, old players to captain new teams. But they keep changing it. They don't just keep piling it on. They'll add things, but then they'll take it keeps it interesting, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we'll definitely see if we can line that up and make that happen for Survivor Oz. And I have to ask you the question, Rove, please pass on a good word to Jeff Probst, because we would love to get him on our show too, to have a chat with him. Come on.
Absolutely. Can do. We'll do a double date on your radio show.
Oh, look, I'm loving it. Now, last time we had you on, of course, we wrapped it up with our famous 5 questions, Rove. Now, I'm not going to ask you them again. I actually had some listeners send in some questions this time. And believe it or not, I actually got a question in from one Reggie Sorensen, or as you might remember her, Reggie Bird, winner of Season 3 Big Brother in Australia. And she wanted to say hello to you, Rove, and wondered, did you enjoy, if you can remember, eating the Reggie cookies that were out at the time?
Oh, yes, yes, I did. Short answer, yes, I did. I don't know what she's up to now. Does she still have a fish and chip shop? Was it a fish and chip shop?
She's long moved to Queensland. She got remarried, and she's actually living on the Gold Coast.
Oh, good for her. I liked her. She was one of my favourites out of a very, very small field of people that I liked on that show.
Well, I'll pass on a hello. And just another quick final question, actually. One of our listeners, Isaac Long, now he actually wanted to get your thoughts on Tasmania, and I wanted to elaborate on this a bit, Rove, because I actually wanted to find out, when was the last time you even came to Tasmania, if you've ever been here at all?
Oh, yes, I have been there. I've done plenty of shows there, and I couldn't tell you the last time I have been. It would have been a couple of years back. I went down to visit Bob Brown, Senator Bob Brown.
Yes.
But that was, I want to say 2009. So considering that's when I was last kind of based in Oz, I think that's not too bad, is it?
No, not at all. Well, I think the thing to next time you're in Australia,
it's always colder than I remember.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. A lot of people, the mainlanders, as we call you guys, Rove, that's what they always say. But the thing to entice you back down here,
you are the last bastion between us and the Arctic Circle, and we thank you for being our little buffer.
That's very true. We'll come down here, see Mona. Have you ever been told about Mona?
No, I have not.
Well, to briefly say what it is, it's basically a museum of sex and death, and it has taken over Hobart in the last year. So, Rove, get your butt to Mona.
Count me in.
Sounds very good. Well, Rove, I will thank you for your time here, of course. Rove LA screens weekly on Fox 8 from 7:30pm, and you can also buy Season 1 of Rove LA, available in all your good shops that sell DVDs. Always a pleasure, mate, having you on, and I look forward to this double date with Jeff Probst on Survivor Oz in the future.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to it as well.
All good things must come to an end, and that is today's episode. It has to come to an end. That has been episode 54 of The Brink. Thanks to everybody who joined us on the show today, Nick, Paul, Colin, and all our past guests as well. Back next Monday, of course, for another one. Hopefully more exciting things to come in the week for you to get excited about. As always, remember to like us on Facebook or on Twitter, YouTube, subscribe on iTunes. Leave us some feedback. We very much appreciate it. Particularly, as I said, Austrians, Indians, United Kingdoms, and Cook Islanders. We want to hear from you, so please leave us some feedback. And in the coming weeks, We'll not really. I mean, we're looking at maybe going on maybe a week or two hiatus, kind of over the Christmas period. But we will, of course, have our best of episode, which we will produce and kind of play the best bits of the year. So stay tuned for that, and kind of obviously our 2017 in the mix, which I'm looking forward to producing in a few weeks and putting all that together, which is always generally one of my favourite things to do every single year. So keep an eye out on that. Obviously, we're getting to the pointy end of 2017 as we transition into yet another year. So, we hope that you are going to look forward to what we've got to come in the coming weeks. Thank you for tuning into The Brink, though. My name is Ben. Keep zucking those oranges, Hobart, and good night.